In the vast tapestry of geological time, there exists no epoch as iconic and enigmatic as the Ice Age. This period, shrouded in both myth and scientific intrigue, has left an indelible mark on our collective imagination, with its icy landscapes and mysterious inhabitants capturing the hearts and minds of generations. Yet the Ice Age is far from a distant relic of our planet's past, for it persists even today, according to the study of glaciology. The Ice Age, in its broadest sense, is defined as any period when extensive ice sheets are present in both the northern and southern hemispheres. In the modern world, we still meet these criteria, albeit precariously. Some researchers even consider a looser definition, wherein an ice age is any point in Earth's history when permanent glaciers or ice sheets exist anywhere on the planet. According to scientists, we are currently living within the Quaternary glaciation event, a chapter in the ongoing saga of our planet's icy history. However, many are unaware that we remain in the grip of the Ice Age, with the common belief being that Earth has always been covered in vast sheets of ice. This misconception could not be further from the truth. As we delve deeper into our planet's past, we find that at various points in history, Earth was not only ice-free, but veritably tropical. This raises the question, when was Earth's last fully green, or at least not icy, era? One might expect the answer to lie within the Quaternary glaciation period, which is thought to have begun around 2.58 million years ago. Yet, if we were to travel back a day, or even a few years before this event began, we would still find plenty of ice and coldness to contend with, as this period is merely the tip of the iceberg. In fact, if we journey back 1 million, 2 million, or even 10 million years ago, we would still find some parts of the planet covered in ice. To witness a fully ice-free Earth, we would have to journey far back in time, before humans, or any of the great beasts, were a thing. A time when crocodiles dwelled in Antarctica, when palm trees grew in places like Alaska, and mammals seemed alien-like. This was the age of the Eocene, a mysterious time that played out between 40 and 34 million years ago. The Eocene was a time when the Earth was hotter than it is today, with most studies finding that right before the Ice Age kicked off, average temperatures were about 5 to 8 degrees Celsius hotter than they are now. This meant that a country like France felt more like Syria, and that Europe as a whole was closer to being subtropical than temperate. Meanwhile, if you lived in the US, you would find the climate was more like that of Uruguay. With such drastically different climates, it's no surprise that other aspects of the Eocene world were equally unique. For example, the water levels were significantly higher, with 70% of all Earth's fresh water currently frozen as ice, equating to about 2% of the total water supply. In the Eocene, sea levels were possibly 70 meters, or 230 feet, above current levels, meaning that maps of the time would have had a few changes. For starters, much of our current coasts were submerged, and on top of that, you add things like the entirety of Florida being submerged, Europe being chiseled into the giant and small islands, India off doing its own thing, and the Sahara being wet, not dry. In this watery world, Earth's ultimate predators of the time lurked. These were not the gentle giants of today, but rather hyper-predatorial whales with highly developed, mean-looking teeth, streamlined bodies, and powerful jaws. They gave some of them appearances closer to sharks than to the whales we know today. This group, known as the Basilosauridae, were actually first misidentified as marine reptiles instead of mammals. The Basilosauridae were a formidable presence, expanding into every single continent on Earth, including Antarctica, and they did this concurrently. If you ever found yourself in a late Eocene ocean or sea, you'd be almost guaranteed to swim into one of them if you stuck around long enough. They were found in every saltwater environment, including open oceans, shallow inland seas, and in some cases even brackish ecosystems like marshes and mangrove forests. The Basilosauridae came in a variety of shapes and sizes, rendering nearly every animal around them a potential target. At the lower end, you had Tutsetus, who was still much larger than a human, measuring over 2.4 meters, or 8 feet long, and weighing the same as a large bull shark. At the opposite end of the spectrum, you had the Paracetus, which, despite being the largest of the Basilosauridae, was actually quite slow and likely spent most of its life in shallow water, feasting on benthic animals instead of being a giant killer. Despite the Paracetus's gentle nature, there was indeed another Basilosauridae who was both huge and bloodthirsty, and that was the Basilosaurus. This creature measured up to 18 meters, or 60 feet long, and its weight was about 15 tons. It was an absolute speedster, allowing for a very active hunting lifestyle, where it fed on virtually anything it wanted, including sharks, large fish, and other marine mammals, including its own kind. In addition to the Basilosauridae, the Eocene was also home to other strange and terrifying creatures. For example, giant sea serpents, best demonstrated by the Paleophyte family, were also a part of this prehistoric menagerie. These snakes were absolutely units, with the largest water snakes of all time belonging to this family. The two biggest were Taris fienis and Peleophis, with the former having been the smaller of the two, measuring 5.7 meters or 19 feet, and the latter, based on vertebrae, could reach a staggering 12.3 meters or 40 feet long. These giant extinct snakes weren't just some lumbering giants. They were highly capable swimmers, with large compressed tails that acted like tail flux, and would have swum through the water with an undulating movement, just like present-day sea snakes. But what's a bit strange and discomforting about them is that they were much more robust and powerfully built than what you'd expect from an aquatic sea snake, leading paleontologists to believe that the paleophyte would have needed to rely on stealth and ambushes to strike large, unsuspecting prey, who they then would have killed with remarkably powerful jaws and hyperflexible mouths that allow them to swallow things whole, such as sharks, fish, and possibly even small whales. The Eocene was not only home to these terrifying predators, but also to a diverse array of other marine life. For example, sharks like the Otodes, the genus which gave rise to the megalodon, were also present during this time. The species of Otodes swimming around was the Arculatus, a shark that was giant within its own right, being capable of growing to 9.5 meters or 31 feet long, making it comparable to the biggest clear whales on record. In addition to these apex predators, the Eocene was also home to a variety of other creatures, both friendly and not so friendly. For example, the waters were home to a variety of sea turtles, cephalopods, dinofish, and invertebrates. The waters were also home to our favorite mermaids, the Cyrenesians, who at this time were exceptionally diverse, while also being a bit different than how we think of Cyrenesians now, as these guys were a bit more primitive, only recently having transitioned to a fully aquatic lifestyle, resulting in a few kinds still possessing physical traits which you would not expect to find on an aquatic animal. I'm talking 4 limbs and fingers. In fact, there's even a chance that back then you could have spotted a Cyrenesian walking about on land too, as during the Eocene, not all had made a full shift to water yet, with some instead being amphibious, or in some cases even primarily terrestrial, and they weren't only once caught in this figurative middle ground, as another group doing something similar was their old pals, the cetaceans. Since in conjunction to the Basilsauridae, you also had the Protocetidae, a diverse group of whales that in some ways actually had more things in common with amphibians than their extinct relatives, seeing that they were, well, amphibious, possessing strong limbs that were developed enough to have supported their bodies on land, while still also having traits more suited for aquatic adventures, including not only webbing on their feet, but also in a few cases highly developed tails. And taking a page straight from their cousins, the Basilsauridae, the members of this family, were a bit more unfriendly than most present cetaceans, having teeth designed to pierce, puncture, and shear flesh apart, instead of filter feeding. The only good news here is that they were not as big as their coexisting relatives, being more akin to the size of bears, with the largest being about the weight of a grizzly. So, while the Eocene was home to some truly terrifying predators, it was also a time of great diversity and wonder. It was a time when the world was warmer, the waters were higher, and life thrived in ways we can barely imagine today. It was a time when giants roamed the land and sea, and the very fabric of life was different from anything we know today. And yet, despite all this, we are still here, still living on this strange and wondrous planet, still trying to understand our place in the cosmos. For in the end, the Eocene, like all periods of our planet's history, is but a fleeting moment in the grand tapestry of time.